the NFL is a what have you done for me lately sort of league. We all know that. I mean, coaches get fired, coordinators get shown the door, and front office guys get let go all the time, regardless of past success. That's just how the business works, baby. But here's the thing. Some of those firings make a lot of sense. I mean, a team goes 2-14, the coach gets canned, and everyone moves on. Fair enough. But then, well, you got those other firings that happen because of personal reasons. You know, ones driven by ego, pettiness, or reasons so absurd that you can't actually believe that they happened. So, with that said, today we're counting down the 10 pettiest firings in NFL history. And trust me, some of these are absolutely wild. Brian Cox, defensive line coach, New York Giants. You want to know what dysfunction looks like? Well, here it is, despite what the Mara family wants you to think. Brian Cox was fired by the Giants during their bye week in 2025. Now, this was not some random position coach. No. Cox was a 3-time Pro Bowler as a player and won a Super Bowl ring with the Patriots back in 2001. The guy knew what he was doing on a football field. So what happened? Well, according to reports, the final straw was his reaction to being moved from the front of the team plane to the back after a 33-15 loss to the Patriots. Yeah, we're talking about an airplane seat. That was what reportedly did it. Now granted, there was more going on behind the scenes. I mean, there had to be, given the relative nothingness of that altercation, should you even call it that. But Cox was very close with fired head coach Brian Daboll, and tensions were running high throughout the entire organization after Daboll got let go. Interim head coach Mike Kafka declined to give specifics on why exactly Cox was released. But I mean, when your team is sitting at 2-11 and you're making national headlines for firing a coach over where he sat on a plane, well, I think that tells you everything that you need to know about the state of a franchise. Marty Schottenheimer, head coach, San Diego Chargers. In 2006, Marty Schottenheimer led the San Diego Chargers to a 14-2 record, best in the NFL that season. LaDainian Tomlinson was the league MVP. The offense was a-rolling. The defense was solid. Everything was clicking in San Diego. They lost at home in the divisional round to the Patriots, which definitely hurt. No question about that. But 14-2, that is as good as it gets in the regular season. And for whatever reason, they fired him after the best record in football. Apparently, the real reason behind the scenes tied back to a personal feud between Schottenheimer and GM AJ Smith, who just couldn't stand each other. Their relationship had been deteriorating for years, and by 2006, they literally weren't on speaking terms. Owner Dean Spanos cited a dysfunctional situation between the two, which, I mean, yeah, fair enough, but when you have to choose between your coach and your GM, maybe you side with the guy who just went 14-2? I don't know. It just seems like the smart move. But the final straw apparently came when Schottenheimer wanted to interview his own brother for the vacant defensive coordinator job, which I guess was just a bit too much for the front office to handle. You go 14-2 and you get fired. Absolutely wild. Best record in the NFL, got fired anyway. Oh well. Players loved him, results were there, but it just didn't matter. Mike Shanahan, head coach, Oakland Raiders. And now we get to Al Davis, who might be the pettiest owner in NFL history. If not the pettiest, he's definitely up there. Al Davis fired Mike Shanahan 4 games into his second season in 1989. The record was 8-12 overall at that point. Not great, sure, but here's where it begins to get interesting. Davis owed Shanahan $250,000 in back pay, $250,000. The NFL actually ruled in Shanahan's favor in 1990 and ordered Davis to pay up. Davis appealed though and never paid a dime. Not 1 cent. Oh no, instead, he told Shanahan that taking him to court would cost more in legal fees than the actual money owed, basically daring him to sue. That is damn cold. Oh, but it gets better. During Shanahan's time at the Raiders, Davis would fire Shanahan's assistant hires without telling him. And then he'd order them back to work when Shanahan tried to fire Davis's guys in retaliation. It was just total chaos. Nobody knew who was actually in charge. But karma came around in a big way. Shanahan went to Denver and won 2 Super Bowls with the Broncos. His record against the Raiders as Denver's head coach? 21-7. And in 1994, while coaching the 49ers, Shanahan allegedly had quarterback Elvis Grbac throw a football at Davis's head during a pregame warm-up. Now that is just how deep the beef ran. 20 years of bad blood over $250,000. Lane Kiffin, head coach, Oakland Raiders. Al Davis wasn't done being petty. Oh no, not even close. Never make the mistake of thinking that Davis is just a one-trick pony. In 2008, Davis fired Lane Kiffin over the phone. No in-person meeting, just a phone call. See ya, Kiffin. The man was 31 years old when he got hired, the youngest head coach in league history. But what happened after the firing is what makes this legendary. You see, Davis held a 90-minute press conference. 90 minutes. He sat there under a desk lamp, reading from prepared notes, calling Kiffin a liar and a con man on national television. Just torching the guy for an hour and a half using an overhead projector. Most press conferences are like, what, 15 minutes? Davis went full movie villain here. Apparently, there were tensions between the two for years, but the final straw came when Kiffin also made the bizarre decision late in the game to have Sebastian Janikowski attempt a 76-yard field goal. That would have shattered the NFL record by 13 yards. It came up short, obviously, and Kiffin was fired just 2 days later. Did Kiffin make some mistakes? Yeah, absolutely. But come on, a 90-minute press conference calling your former coach a con man under a desk lamp? That is a different level of petty. That is Al Davis petty. Jim Harbaugh, head coach, San Francisco 49ers. This one really hurts if you're a Niners fan, and, well, it should. Jim Harbaugh's record in San Francisco, 44-19 in 4 seasons, 3 straight NFC Championship games, 1 Super Bowl appearance. Never had a losing season with 49ers, not once, and they still let him go. It wasn't mutual, by the way. No, Harbaugh confirmed that later. I was told I wouldn't be the coach anymore. So the man didn't quit, he didn't leave, they pushed him out. So what happened? Well, a power struggle between Harbaugh and GM Trent Baalke. Just some good old classic football politics. Owner Jed York had to pick a side and, well, he picked Baalke over the coach who had just taken his franchise to 3 straight conference championship games. It was one of those situations that the players never quit on the coach, but the owner did. Here's the punchline though. You see, 2 years later after Harbaugh left, the 49ers went 2-14. Complete disaster. No shocker. But shortly thereafter, Trent Baalke got fired too. So York chose Baalke over Harbaugh and then fired Baalke anyway. And Harbaugh went on to have a world of success with Michigan, his alma mater, and now the Chargers. So he got rid of both guys just 2 years apart. That is some world-class questionable decision making. You gotta wonder how different things really could have been if he had just stuck with his winning coach. Buddy Ryan, head coach, Philadelphia Eagles. Buddy Ryan is a Philly legend. The man who built the 46 defense that terrorized the NFL. The guy who turned the Eagles into a force in the late 80s. He was hard on them, but man, players loved him and the fans admired the hard-nosed attitude that he brought to the team. His record in Philadelphia, 43-35-1 over 5 seasons. His final season, 10-6, double-digit wins. And owner Norman Bramman fired him anyway. Here's the thing too, Bramman was like super cheap, like legendarily cheap. He actually charged players for their own equipment. Yeah, that's right. Cleats, gloves, pads, players had to pay. Meanwhile, other teams just gave that stuff away for free. But oh no, Bramman sent his players bills. He was the kind of owner that was really only concerned with money, not winning. That was just an afterthought. All of this was just about the dollars. His reasoning for firing Ryan, or at least how he spun it to the fans, was that it was time to stop being a bridesmaid and become a bride. Yeah, needless to say, that didn't go as planned. Ryan didn't hold back either, calling Bramman the guy in France because Bramman spent so much time overseas, and he referred to the team president as Bramman's illegitimate son. Buddy here was not pulling any punches. When you're firing a 10-win coach while simultaneously charging your players for their cleats, the pettiness is coming from inside the house. That is an ownership problem, not a coaching problem. Not even close. Wade Phillips, head coach, Buffalo Bills. Wade Phillips made the playoffs in 2 of his 3 years with the Buffalo Bills. Very solid results. His career record as an NFL head coach, 82-64. I mean, this guy could win games consistently. So why the heck was he fired? Well, he refused to fire his special teams coordinator, Ronnie Jones. Phillips stood by his guy. And, well, he got canned for it. Loyalty was literally the reason that he lost his job. You want to know what happened next? Well, the Bills went 16 more seasons without ever making the playoffs. Yeah, from 2000 to 2016, no postseason football in Buffalo. 16 years in the wilderness because they fired a coach who wouldn't throw his coordinator under the bus. Meanwhile, Phillips went to Dallas and led the Cowboys to 2 playoff berths in 4 seasons. Then he joined Denver and won Super Bowl 50 as the Broncos' defensive coordinator, building one of the most dominant defenses in recent memory. Von Miller, DeMarcus Ware, the whole thing. Loyalty got him fired, and Buffalo paid for it for a decade and a half. Robert Saleh, head coach, New York Jets. The firing itself, well, look, the Jets were 2-3 at the time and 20-36 overall under Saleh. the numbers weren't great. I don't think anybody's arguing that. This has a lot more to do with how they handled it. That is what puts them on this list. After the London loss to the Vikings in October of 2024, owner Woody Johnson fired Saleh. According to reports, Saleh was then escorted out of the building by the team's director of security. He reportedly wasn't allowed to say goodbye to the players, and, well, the owner came directly from ownership. So they walked him out like he was a security threat. Now, there are conflicting reports here. Some outlets said that the security escort didn't happen, but multiple sources confirmed Saleh was blindsided by the news and wasn't given a chance to address his team. And what made it all the more ridiculous was that the issues with the Jets were all top-down. It was ownership forcing players and personnel decisions onto the staff. And then they asked Saleh for not being able to win with their decisions. So whether the escort happened or not, the optics were bad enough. And when your franchise is already the butt of every joke in the NFL, I don't know, maybe don't add fuel to the fire by treating your former coach like a criminal. Bill Parcells, head coach, New England Patriots. This one gave us one of the greatest quotes in NFL history. So I mean, at least something good came out of it. Bill Parcells took the Patriots to Super Bowl 31. The franchise is finally turning around after years of mediocrity. Things were beginning to look up in Foxborough. But Parcells and owner Robert Kraft clashed over one fundamental thing: control of personnel decisions. Kraft gave draft control to Bobby Greer instead of Parcells. In the 1996 draft, Parcells wanted defensive end Tony Brackens. According to New England lore, Kraft overruled him and picked receiver Terry Glenn instead. When Parcells left, he explained it like this: "They want you to cook the dinner, at least they ought to let you shop for some of the groceries." That quote has lived in football lore ever since. Every time a coach and owner clash over personnel, someone brings up the groceries line. And honestly, that line goes kinda hard, so I get it. Now, in fairness, Parcells later admitted that he might have been a bit too headstrong at that point in his career, and that both sides had their issues. Neither one was completely in the right. But hey, there is a happy ending here. You see, Parcells was inducted into the Patriots Hall of Fame, ending a nearly 30-year feud with Kraft. Even if it was likely a move to take a jab at another legendary coach in Bill Belichick that Kraft had recently started feuding with. Oh well, suppose it's good that they finally buried the hatchet after all those years either way. Paul Brown, head coach, Cleveland Browns. Alrighty, so we saved the most ridiculous one for last. Paul Brown co-founded the Cleveland Browns in 1946. The team is literally named after him. Paul Brown, the Browns. It is his name on the building. He invented playbooks, he pioneered game film study, and he even was one of the early voices bringing face masks to football. The man is the godfather of modern football. The man was a Hall of Fame coach and one of the most influential figures in the history of the entire sport. But in 1961, a guy named Art Modell with a big old ego, eager to make a change, bought the team. 2 years later, he fired Paul Brown, the man that the team was named after and who built the franchise from nothing. He cited player morale and underachievement, but I think everyone knew that this was a personal matter, and Modell wanting to take over the identity of the team. So, Paul Brown was fired from the team named after him. You cannot make this stuff up. But don't worry, Paul Brown got his revenge. You see, in 1968, he founded the Cincinnati Bengals and built another franchise from scratch. And Modell, well, he eventually became one of the most hated figures in Cleveland sports history after moving the Browns to Baltimore in the 90s. But hey, which firing do you think was the absolute pettiest? What do you think we got right here? What did we get wrong? Was there anything notable that we may have missed? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, then clicking the like button helps us out a ton. And you know, we really appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, then subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.